to join early. They're the early adopters because they want to influence the game.
Yeah.
So they want it to be the way they want games made.
And I really should at some point spend time logging into their forums and whatnot, but
Wait.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Give it a
the
little.
problem, the
Yeah.
challenge is like if I wait. So my problem is if I
No,
wait,
I'm not.
the chatter is just too much and I never catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
don't wait, months. Wait weeks.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we are live, everybody. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Oracles of Theleston. You got a little of the conversation we had going on before the show here. Another game that we also kind of talk about on the channel here. So yeah, you can, I'm sure, do a little bit of detective work and figure it out if you're not sure which one that is. But we are here talking about Theleston. We are back. We're going to be talking about Harold a little bit more here too. So it's been a little while. It's been about a month since we played Harold, and you know, he's just been hanging out, you know, just dreaming about bread and, you know, not being in the butt of old winter with this crisis going on, which is kind of where we left him off. But first, before we get into that, was there anything else anybody wanted to talk about? Any of the recent updates, things that Skyward Star has been working on, etc.?
Well, I know there have been updates. However, having been very sick last week, I actually even was sick during the playtest. I ended up having to bow out of it and run
Yeah, I
off
remember
to my doc. But they did release a update to the player app. They refined their health formula, incorporated more gear, incorporated more skill descriptions, and changed the way the health was calculated. So
Yeah.
continues to make progress.
And I like what
we've
they
seen-
did. That formula is great. Anyway, continue. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. And we've seen continued hints at kind of the card stance mechanics for combat, and continued development in the divination cards art. And they hit their next goal on Patreon so that they can start outsourcing some of their art requests and needs, which was a big step because art has been the kind of bedeviling component of this for a long time. Great ideas, great concepts, great mechanics, but you know, one art, please. So,
Yeah, right.
so hopefully that will start rolling in a bit more steadily over time, or at least I don't expect like, you know, suddenly art to pop out of the wazoo, but it'll be neat to see some polished outside art come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the latest playtest, there were 2 sessions back to back over the course of a week, and I think we put in about 7 hours, six and a half,
sounds
7
about
hours
right.
total. The party has significantly progressed in that amount of time in terms of where are they and where have they traveled to and stuff like that,
And what they've gotten into.
right, and out of, for
Mhm.
that matter. And
And
Omwo was kind enough last time to actually give a little bit of a synopsis from the DM's perspective for my benefit. And
Yeah.
that was really interesting. I had, since, you know, this is new to me, but I didn't realize that he had rolled a 1 twice.
Yeah,
And
he's
so
been doing that a
had
lot.
radically impacted what happened for the players, and I didn't quite understand how that all works together, you know. So that was really very interesting, and I really appreciated that he did that, because I was, you know, clueless and ignorant, and I didn't even know to ask that question. So that was very cool.
You know, between that and even the first time with the spyglass that he totally botched, that, you know, going out the window. Yeah, that's absolutely hilarious. That he's just been having absolutely poor luck. And it's one of those things that, you know, we don't actually see the rolls unless he actually puts it in the thing. So
Right.
any unseen rolls, you don't know if it's him just being like, I actually want to move the story this way, so I'm going to say it's a 1, and you guys just shut up. But no, I don't. Realistically,
he
I don't
seems to
think that's the
actually be
case. I
rolling.
think they are actually ones that he is rolling,
And
and
so he
that's
said
hilarious.
he had a whole thing laid out for the thing that scaled the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and then he rolled a 1, so it fell off and went away. And then there was something else that right now I'm drawing a blank on. But it's like he had a whole thing laid out, and then he rolled a 1, so it failed.
That's kind of some of the genius with PNPs is that they are subject still to a lot of the same rules, most of the same rules, and their best laid plans can go to waste just as quickly as a player's. And that unpredictability is probably my favorite aspect of PNPs by far.
Yeah, I mean, there's always ways that they can work around and make the thing happen if they really want it to happen. But
sure,
this is kind of a funny way that it went. That these things could have occurred, but instead, they were kind of stopped in these various ways. And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the way that actually really impacts things going forward is still, it's hard to tell. There's these things that may have happened. You don't know if it could have come out and benefit, or if that could have somehow gotten someone killed or whatever. There's really no way to tell, and I think that's the part that's kind of fun. You don't know if everybody should have had to make like 2 or 3 madness checks on events that could have occurred but didn't or something. So that's definitely a fun component. And to say what could have happened and what was potentially laid out, I think part of it is that this campaign isn't something that was fully like written in Dragon magazine ahead of time, and that you're trying to follow along a script and ad lib where you can. Instead, he's playing it loose. I'm sure he's got a lot of things that he wants to do and have the characters go through and try to reveal to them. But at the same time, how they actually go about those things and what things are actually more or less critical, or how they actually all get presented, that's completely fluid. So whatever works for the situation. What events should have occurred, if there's something you were supposed to have learned about them, you'll learn them somewhere in Valor or somewhere beyond there. Anyway, Diggs, you were going to say something.
I was just thinking, you all walked out of the building and you smell a horrible stench, and you look at the bottom of the window and it's a puddle of black goo. You don't know why it's there, but if you hadn't rolled a 1, you might have found out. How did you feel, Paul, about your character development and playing through the last couple of playsets?
I had a couple of things that I gave to Omba as things that one of them at least had already been. It wasn't a new thing. It was just something that I thought I would like. Oh, by the way. And then the second thing was maybe a new thing, but being kind of new to it, it's like this isn't exactly a plan. It's more like here are some ideas for how things could go or what could happen. These are the things I'm interested in as a player, and that she's interested in as the character, and they fit. And he agreed that they fit the character. And so beyond that, I have no idea what will happen. They're just out there. They are, the DM has them in his hip pocket, and I don't know what's going to happen, or if anything.
Did you develop anything that's helping you be more active than you were previously?
That's a good question. I think I mostly am kind of just getting used to that we have agenda. I mean, I think I thought in the beginning that it would be like having a director, and that you're a player on a stage, and instead each of the players has agency and can make decisions, and that continues to be a surprise. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, I could do that, or yeah, I could slap Verity. like I could go ahead and do that.
And should.
So
threatening to tie up the party and stuff.
Yeah, like I could go ahead and do that in the moment, like Sir with his players saying, no, I'm not going to do that. No, that's not cool. So this is going to do that. And it just completely shot down the storyline that was in development. And stuff like that, I think I'm still like wrapping my mind around that's how that works.
Right.
So I think after that little exchange with Omba and kind of tossing some things into the hat, I kind of felt like I could go ahead and just speak up.
Yeah.
It's a big part of
That's
it.
what's all about is agency. You're definitely not a very restricted character in a certain role where both in combat and socially you have to wait till it's your turn to act or anything. No, you do what you got to do. You know, if your character has had enough of Verde shit, then your character, rightly should say or do something to communicate that. It's like,
Right.
hey, that's I think I've had heard about enough out of you. Stop burying us in more trouble. Whack.
Yeah.
Right in the back of the
Exactly.
head. Now, also, does she wear like gloves or something heavy on her hand so it's got a good thump to it, or
No,
just barehanded?
she's got some herb gathering gloves, but mostly she's pretty calloused from a lot of herb gathering and
Okay,
fine chopping.
that'll
But
give some
not
impact
knuckles,
to it.
just
Yeah.
fingertips.
Yeah.
But yeah, did
Paul,
slap
you're-
once.
That'll happen
Your,
again.
Your mention of thinking that you would be directed reminds me of the first time I played pen and paper D&D on a actual hex graph, like with miniatures. And so when I used to play in high school, we would just have like regular graph paper, and we would kind of draw maps, but it wasn't like spaces that our miniatures would fit into. And then right around the time, 20 years ago or so, when 3rd edition came out, I was playing with some people with the actual size text map with the miniatures on there, and we would position them on the map for, you're going to move 3 spaces ahead and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, go ahead. So I want him to go there, and I was expecting the DM to move my miniature piece. And they looked at me like, you're responsible for your own miniature. Move it. It's like,
Interesting.
oh, okay, I don't know. I just thought I'd tell you where I'm gonna be, and I don't know, magically they would move or you would move it. So yeah, there's all this kind of learning curves that you don't even think about.
Right, and it's like being so ignorant you don't even know what the next question is.
Yeah.
Or what another couple of questions could be. So some of that is that, and just kind of wrapping your mind around, oh, I could actually do that. Oh,
Mhm.
well, I don't need somebody to tell me how to do that then.
Mhm.
Okay. That.
Mhm.
Yeah, and interestingly, actually, it's kind of funny. Slightly unrelated. When I was in Minneapolis on my trip, I stopped by the Fantasy Flight gaming place.
Mhm.
Which is really cool. It was just a big building, pretty much a warehouse, and they had 2 big areas where they just had tons of tables set up, lots of miniatures, people playing games you could take off the shelf and play, and a big storefront where you could buy stuff, buy food, and buy tabletop sets, all sorts of. It was really cool though, because it's neat to see this. And yeah, in Fantasy Flight, it makes pretty awesome games. I found out that they apparently license for some of the Star Wars stuff and things like that. But it was really cool to see just how strong the community still is, because I was looking at that, and you had these tables full of, really veteran, I guess, players. I mean, guys, who, were sitting there, they knew what they were doing, had elaborate, campaigns set up with these, massive miniatures and all sorts of things spanning multiple tables and groups of players.
Grognard.
Yeah, right. And but you also have lots of, but it was neat to see this, and then you see lots of young people, groups of, teens, definitely, outright teens, getting, playing games and developing, and you had, like groups that you could see were actually like mentoring other groups and stuff. It was really cool to see that. That's a place for them to go, and that's kind of alive and well. But and then obviously that appeal is still really universal.
Yeah, for sure.
I almost walked out of there with. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, free disclosure, but I almost walked out of there with a giant Star Wars Armada Death Star,
Nice.
or not Death Star, Star Destroyer rather, just to have at my office. They had a really cool Enterprise D that I would have preferred, but they told me it wasn't for sale. No matter how many fat stacks of cash I waved at them.
Oh well. I mean,
I think it was like $20. I was like,
no.
do it
Oh
for
well.
Benji.
Haha.
Anyways,
Oh, thanks, old boy. I saw there was a really cool shirt last night, old boy. Yeah. I mean, that's really cool, and yeah, the fun thing is there's definitely still like, not only is it that there's still pen and paper communities, just they never went anywhere. You know, people have come and gone and stuff, and new ones have popped up here and there, and some have like moved and consolidated in different ways, but you know, it's still alive and well out there. There's tons and tons and tons of people playing pen and paper games, board games as well. Internationally, I know Germany is huge on board games. As one of my art professors said, you know, I'm German and I can say this. Germans love rules, and you know, I talked about it later. It's like that makes sense why German people love board games so damn much, because that's all it's all about is rules. And
now I have to go hunt down
you
and
can
find
work it.
Need to hunt down a buddy of mine who's in Germany and ask him to start a alignment debate there.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, it's not just here in the United States. It's abroad. People play pen and paper games. They get localized to all different languages. I'm kind of curious what pen and paper games they play in China, to be perfectly honest. That's a subject I haven't looked into at all, and I kind of think I will after the show here, because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't look like a zombie. I'm actually quite alive feeling now.
Yes.
Just touch and go though for a bit. I certainly felt like I don't get sick super often, but every time I do, it always seems like it's the end of the world. Kind of like stubbing your toe, right? And so there's this moment there where, right, where you're just kind of like, I'm like, I'd just rather be dead at this point. And the lady's like, you can't die. What about the baby? It's like, I definitely want to be dead now. I think she almost might have smothered me at that point. I think there was a genuine consideration. I've got a good life insurance policy. Hello. Anyways.
So yeah, the pen and paper, and then I would say there's always been this like kind of crossover interest of people who are gamers that like games, but you know, specifically video games, and they like the idea of a pen and paper game, but either they don't know anybody or haven't really tried looking for people to play with locally, or otherwise they just don't want to have to actually like know and memorize the rules. They'd rather have that part be automated so they can focus on, you know, playing the content that's being presented.
Yeah,
So I feel
some
like,
of the stuff. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say games like the Neverwinter and Baldur's Gate and stuff. It seemed like those were trying to be the real closest attempts to that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I met a lot of people who were fascinated by like D&D and some of these other settings, but yeah, it's like I just don't want to sit down and play this pen and paper and deal with all this crap. But yeah, but they loved the games because oftentimes, like for Neverwinter, for a long time, you could see all the dice rolls happening in essentially in a tab, and you know they could see the mechanics at play, but they were still playing a video game. That's a really good bridge. I think a lot of people enjoyed. Maybe you tell us someday. Maybe for now.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So there's so we're gonna kind of get back to Harold here a little bit. Before we get back to that, was there anything else anybody wanted to kind of cover or talk about, or? So
No, I was just saying that maybe we should use one of the Stanislavski motivations and talk about. Each of us could maybe give our idea of what Harold would be up to if he hadn't been deputized.
Right. So, I mean,
like, what is he interested in? What does he want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we can just go down the list here real quick. The who am I is the first one, and it seems like for that, it's, you know, he's a local baker of some renown
Well,
in Crown's
I
Rock,
was
but
actually hoping that the three of us would do more of the questions in private, away from you.
oh, oh, okay. Well, I mean,
But
do
we
it
could do
then.
but we could do number 4 in public.
All
That's what I
right.
was thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, arrange that then. Don't just be
Um,
like, "Hey, let's do the thing," and then. So
well, I
number 4,
came up.
what do
Yeah.
I want? And
A
is
whole
it
cannoli. No, I'm kidding.
as is described here from the New York Film Academy, this is a character's primary motivation for everything they do in a scene. All action should be executed with the goal of getting what you want from the other characters in the scene. This is also called the character's objective. So, this, in general, the scene, I would say, isn't just whatever location Harold is in at any given time, so much as this entire event that's going on. The, Crown's Rock, the disease, the this time and place. It's all part of, the scene. So, where in stage acting, it might just be that segment of the play, that little part of it. For this, it's, I would say, really something that spans across the entire campaign. Obviously, there's both kind of the macro and the micro. It's what they want on the grander scale, and it seems like for him, obviously, more business, more opportunities is definitely on the list of things. But in the more micro scale, it's things of and associated with figuring out what the heck is going on, trying to figure out who the right people are, getting answers from them, etc., so he can help them resolve this, hopefully, and get back to baking.
Well, so for me, and one of the reasons why I wanted to focus on this one specifically is because, along with the sense of who am I? So when I think of characters and I'm role playing, even when I'm doing this in MMORPGs, um, you know, I'm thinking, if I'm a druid, what does that mean? What are the types of things that druids want to do? How is that, pushing me in all of the interactions that I have? And last episode, I was saying I realized that we forgot when we were in the barracks. There's this, one of our NPCs goes off into a cantina, and they're making slop, and we're a baker, and we go in there and we don't even care about what they're making. But as a baker, we could have been thinking about how could we make this better, or what supplies could we do. Maybe
Yeah, we kind of lost track of it in this
yeah.
blinders of focus on tipping barrels of oil, which was most important, and then on solving this mystery. I agree, though. Yeah, it was kind of this
It's
face
kind of a
palm.
huge miss.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm wondering more, what would Harold want to be doing if somebody didn't come in and deputize him? So, would he be, is he low on supplies? And he would, and so the other thing that he really needs to do in addition to this is stock up on his supplies? Is he thinking, oh yeah, that's right, if I don't go to the meat place, I'm low on meat, I'm not going to be able to make my meat pies for the rest of the week.
Well, I have another question.
And I'm not going to be able to eat.
Right. And another question is Harold innately generous? Is that part of his nature? If he heard that people were sick, would he make food to bring to the sick? If he knew that the barracks was full of sick people, would he bring good food that would maybe help them be healthy?
Not a fun part of his
I mean,
personality.
I don't know. Is that Harold's character? Is that in his nature?
If
That
so-
would be one of my questions.
It seems like the sort of thing where he'd maybe bring a few loaves of bread and try to, give some to some of the folks that are hungry, but also try to give some to the people who actually have pull, and be like, hey guys, you guys got any extra resources? I'd love to come through here and, just make the bread here, and we can work out either some sort of compensation, or, afterward you guys can give me some sort of official recognition for helping you guys out or something. work something out here. But I can see you guys need good food, and my resources are getting a little low. That's the sort of thing I could see him doing. It seems like, yes, he would want to do it as a a generous and selfless act to an extent. At the same time, he is a businessman in Crown's Rock, and so you can't be too soft. You can't be fully cutthroat, but you can't be too soft either. It's Crown's
Right, but
Rock.
if your customer base is dying, or not able to get, there's no business to be had anyway.
Well, and that's kind of the way I looked at his motivation initially. Was like, why would he even accept this? I mean, yes, you could say, well, it's just he was forced to be deputized. He didn't know saying this, but really, there had to have been personal motivation here. He's like, well, sickness, it's ports, my supplies come in that way. This impacts me. I care about it. Then I wondered, Harold Baker. I mean, the name was kind of spurious, I freely admit, but it was Baker implies that as a surname. Is he first generation Baker, or is he actually a line of Bakers? Was his father a Baker or mother, so on? And if so, is this not a moment where he is actually as much embracing this? Perhaps he is indeed ignoring the baking aspect of it because he's like, here's a chance for me to do something that wasn't preordained for me. I don't have to be a baker right now.
I wonder about that because it's not Baker, it's Bakur. So I'm wondering if it was some other last name that over time, as they were, more involved with baking, they just kind of dropped a letter off here or there, and then it eventually became Baker from whatever it had been.
Right. So, and that's just kind of along those same lines, though, right? I don't know about you, but at some point in your career, most people, well, I won't even say that because I can't speak for most people. I can speak for me. And at many points in my career, I've wondered, is there something I'd rather be doing else than this? Is there, if there was an opportunity for me to do something else, would I take it? How much would I embrace that, right? And so I wonder, how focused is he on this as a, I just need to get through this so I can get back to my baking and my business, or how much of this is I get to be something more than or other than a baker. And it's not something we've really explored too much because we haven't really fleshed them out to a great degree.
We should be, which is why it's good to talk about.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And so,
well, that's the thing, though. Is I think he would like to put on his, whatever the plaque outside his door or whatever, Deputy Harold Baker. Instead of just, having an extra title, being able to rely and go back on this and have it as like the story. It's like, yeah, not only did I help save Crown's Rock that one time when it was the disease of old winter and such and such year, but yeah, I still help him out and consult here and there and stuff. I'm actually still deputized and part of the detective-y things. So yeah, I'm like a double agent here. You guys want like some secret agent bread? Yeah, obviously not in those specific terms, but I think he would utilize the opportunity to help further build his renown and give him more of an edge over his competition. It's not only do I bake this awesome bread that everybody loves, but y'all love me for other reasons too.
And what I love about what you just said, Neuro, and we're gonna have to talk about stuff like this more on our other show, but I'm non-competitive, so I love that you envision the character as somebody that's very competitive, while I envision what I was gonna expand on with Paul's suggestion. Like I have $1 a day that I give to homeless people, so when I'm walking around, if somebody asks me for money, I have $1. I will give it to the homeless person, that first one, and then for the rest of the day, tough luck. That's my $1 for the day.
I'll say this: meeting him on the street anywhere in the world, sure, you'll kind of come across him as a nice guy, but he might be a little reserved on some things. But you come to Crown's Rock, you meet him in Crown's Rock, you understand. For a businessman in Crown's Rock, he's a pretty generous guy. He's a pretty nice guy. For a businessman in Crown's Rock.
Who's playing the character?
Well, not to mention the fact that
no, I'm just saying.
altruism
Oh, go
And
ahead.
giving some food away when you can, because you don't have a customer base at the moment, is good marketing.
Yeah, and I really like the idea that gives us motivations as we're walking through to get on our way to the docks to check to see what the health of, not only what the health of the people are, but
The health of the
you're sick.
shipments.
I'm just saying, you're sick. Let's see if, what's the state of your pantry. Maybe I can help with that. Kind of like the the
Yeah.
the the stereotypical Jewish mom. Why are you so skinny? You should be eating. But I'm gonna feed you. Of course, I'm gonna feed you. That type of thing, and that helps us. That helps motivate our role playing as we're moving throughout the town. And then if I think about what Zero was saying, does that mean that we have family? Is our mom somewhere in Crowns Rock and we need to go check to make sure that she's healthy? Those are the things that we need to be adding in.
Right.
Right, I agree. Because they really do form a motivation. And not only that, but as Diggs mentioned a couple sessions back, they form a pattern of what is he doing on his off time? I have to go see my mother. I haven't seen her in a couple weeks, or I have to go see my family. I've got friends that I should check in on. I think baking is one of those funny things that while not always the case, has really strong historical evidence of being a fairly altruistic profession, or at least maybe it cultivates altruism.
Yes.
Because you will often see, there's a lot of historical context where bakers have, baked extra bread, provide bread, because there's a certain, historically, bread is life. The minute we unlock
You can live
turning
on bread and
flour
water.
Yeah.
to a life-giving food, that's become a huge thing. And bakers throughout history have been a kind of cornerstone of that, and in many ways they often have been altruistic. I mean, it used to be a fairly good and honorable thing to marry a baker. You will have bread, you will have life.
Yeah.
Will give, provide for his, neighborhood in times of need and things like that. And so I kind of, and whether that's just because of the profession or because it attracts a certain type of person or what it may be, it generally seems to engender that. I've friends, I guess, in my own, and I'm a professed home baker. I love to do my own breads and things like that. I often have sourdough, starters that are kind of constantly burbling away. I have met a lot of bakers in here, and I've yet to really meet one who's a very greedy, self-centered person. I mean, it's always this: you have to try this, or let's bake some for this charity event, or let's go do something that's outwardly giving. So I kind of, maybe just because of that, just instinctively believe that he's at least somewhat altruistic. I mean, it would tie into why he would even bother allowing himself to be forced to kind of deputize this desire to help.
I would say all things that are being, that can be judged subjectively and that are addressing a palate one way or another, there's definitely some amount of, I'm not just making this for me, I'm making this to share, making this for everyone sort of thing. With baking, for sure, I can see that. Home brewing, absolutely. There's homebrew clubs. You come through, you bring your couple bottles of this and that or whatever for some special event that they're doing. We were there picking up grains one time during a mead throwdown, and we had like 6 or 7 different meads. They were all like grossly cloyingly sweet, which I think Owenbaugh said he actually likes, except there was one that was made with sage and I think rosemary, and they got it good. Super dry instead of being cloyingly sweet. It was smooth. It had a nice, warmth and buzz to it. Yeah, that was the stuff. That was more my style. So, that's great stuff. Whenever we homebrew, we love to have people try it. Obviously, it's distribution in some sort of, market exchange is a little more difficult than it used to be maybe 150 years ago. But, we're always happy to have our buddies try it out and enter it in competitions and that sort of thing. And we used to actually make it for fundraisers even.
I have a friend who actually bakes bread, and he bakes bread with meat in it. And his experimental loaves, he would give away He was looking for feedback. He's looking for taste testers, freebies. It's like, here. And then people would say, oh my God, I have to have more. And great, okay, a loaf is $15 or whatever, some outrageous price for a loaf of bread. But I
do like
artisan kind of thing on setup, on trying to get the word out, on trying to engender a customer base starting from scratch. And he's out there actually baking bread till 4:00 in the morning. It's doing his thing, doing his experimental thing, and then going out to flea markets. There were street events, there were festivals, farmers markets, whatever, and every place he could go, he had kiosks of some kind that he could just offer freebies and then let people know how to reach him.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, that's it. It is part of the whole thing. I mean, if you're a baker, then there must be a community, because they kind of go hand in glove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, and we kind of established you had to at least have some close ties, because at that kind of period of time we're talking about, your yeast options were, obviously start your own, and that's what most would do. But when you need to really kind of kickstart things, they'd go to brewers, because brewers always had yeast, and then it's basically skimmed the foam, so to speak. I may have to steal Dig's idea, though. I really like the carrying a buck around, because I'm always in this kind of hit and pinch. We volunteer, and I go to serve at the homeless shelter, the food shelter, regularly. Usually once a month on the low side. But anyways, but I always feel bad, because then I get kind of caught off guard. They're like, "Oh, do you have a buck?" And I'm like, "Well, no, because I don't carry cash."
I know.
Yeah.
It's rough for
What
me.
am I, a hooker?
Yeah.
I mean, the one that has been kind of the prevailing request for the past 2 or 3 years out in the SoCal, Los Angeles, etc. area has been, I just need, a few bucks for bus fare to get from here to here. And, I'm more than happy to give someone like a $5 and be like, yeah, good luck, pal. Maybe even hear their story or whatever too, if I've got the time. But that's usually what it is. I don't know what they're actually gonna do. I hope they're taking a bus somewhere that's gonna take care of them. But whatever, that's their business.
I believe I like to help people. But I freely admit and when I'm on my way to a destination, my altruism is mostly just to get them out of my way. It's just, it's like, hey man, you got $1? I need to do that. It's like, I don't even care. Here's the money. Go. Just get out of my way.
Yeah.
It's. I'm not a great person. What can I say?
Ha ha ha. You're great in other ways. But yes, so what were some other things that I was thinking? So one thing, based on what Nero said, is that maybe at some point we want to, later in the Theleston week, we want to think about going to a sign maker and starting the production of a sign being made for deputy. That's one thing we might be interested in doing. Harold might be interested in doing. And then what kind of baked stuff does Harold normally make? In the sense of, does he make fish pies? Does he make meat pies? Is it almost only dessert pastries? And I'm asking in the sense of, is he going to be concerned about the docks in terms of not being able to get a supply of fish? Maybe it's even a supply of meat, but I'm saying, is it specifically fish related that's going to impact him, or is he going to still be interested in going to the meat place because he might be low on meat at the moment, and he's gonna what in terms of his baking goals for the week, what is he going to be interested in?
I kind of tend to think that he'd be more concerned about the import of grains, just because no matter how many times we look at Crown's Rock, and yes, it does have some arable land, and yes, it's got some farmsteads. I mean, that's not, unless I really misread it, that doesn't appear to be geographically nearly enough to support the needs of a city in terms of grains. And as a baker, that's everything. That's, he can't do anything without it. He could have a ready supply of local meats, from the.
That's right. Grains would be a priority over everything else.
And meats, but
and those would be stored outside the walls in the grain silos on the farms. So
Yeah, but they still have to be imported in for the most part.
That's
and
true.
that's probably going to be by water. So I figure right off the bat, there's a concern over whether or not he's going to be able to obtain the most, or help the
Right.
city maintain a healthy grain supply.
Well,
I'm not.
The other thing in our story so far is that isn't the plague in the grain?
I think
Not
we don't
necessarily.
know.
Yeah, I don't think
Oh,
it's been
okay.
established
All right.
firmly.
I
It's
thought-
just that we know that.
I
they're
mean,
getting sick, from-
I know what it is, but you
Right.
guys haven't figured it
Yeah,
out
we
yet.
don't. Yeah,
Okay. I
yeah,
thought
we don't know.
But either way, I think partly just, I mean, I think on some level he just recognized that they do have to import a fair number of things. So no matter what, anything coming from the docks is at risk. But in terms of what he bakes, I personally see him as kind of the morning baker, so to speak. I mean, all bakers have to work in the mornings. It's just reality. But get the day's supplies of just good whole grain, loaves, the kind of what we would call like kind of artisanal sandwich loaves now, but I mean what really are just like your standard loaves, things like that. And then by midday he's probably transitioning into meat pies or fish pies or maybe both, because he has the butchering skills. But by then so he's kind of gotten people that come in the morning to get their loaves for the day of whatever they may be, and then as you transition to the afternoon, you've got the lunch crowd, so to speak, and the people planning for dinner, getting their heartier meat pies or maybe mincemeat pies. And so I kind of see him sweeping through that, and then by the end of the day, he's just kind of prepping for the next day. But but I probably don't see him doing a lot of sweet goods. Just partly, it's mostly based on location. Were he in a wealthier area, I could see him being maybe more of a pastry baker because they have more money to splurge on things like that. But for his area, it seems real home and hearth, supporting the masses with good, solid
Well,
baked goods.
I think the other thing to consider that supports that position is that this is old winter, and the supply of honey from the bees is probably pretty low.
Yeah,
Okay,
all sweet things.
Because
I would
that's the source
imagine.
of sweet. Unless you're
Molasses.
running a cane sugar
If they import molasses by the barrel, I could see that. Otherwise, and then there's one other thing that we've actually kind of teased out already is that he does custom orders. There's that one patron that he met in the tavern who always gets that special bread, which it's like a ciabatta. It's like a flat, square sort of bread is
Sure.
more what I was imagining for that. And the ceremonial purpose, well, I could make something up, but I didn't really get that far with it. It's just that's what his family eats for whatever thing, for whatever god or event or otherwise. Or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just like when they get all the brothers together, they all get their square things and make a certain kind of sandwich together, and that's their ritual. Who knows?
Well, and they certainly got the skill to be able to do one-off bakes or more exotic
Exactly.
bakes. In terms of his actual raw attributes and skill sets, totally do it. Otherwise, he's kind of his bread and butter is bread and butter. So,
Yeah, right.
but that still forms a pretty solid drive towards wanting to ensure. I mean, I think he's certainly sharp enough to recognize the cascade effects of what would happen if the docks actually were experiencing some kind of plague, if shipments coming in of any kind were being poisoned. Crown's Rock is got multiple points of entry, yes, but I mean, again, they still aren't that big. They can't support their own infrastructure just on their own relatively small stretches of land and fishable areas. So I imagine that this is probably, as someone who's very acutely tied to the stream of edible goods, would probably be something that would really stand out to him.
Yeah.
So we're 45 minutes in. Do we want to do 15 minutes to finish with character development and come back and start gameplay next week or next session, or do we want to start the session now and do 30 to 45 minutes of play?
I'm fine either way. Whatever
Probably-
your folks are.
Probably, I always prefer playing over anything, I suppose. But it's probably easier to bang out the last little bit of world or character building now, so we have more time with it on the next session
Yeah,
to
I
really
think
just
I'd
dive
agree.
back into it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
just
I'd
to
like to
wrap.
be able to do a nice
Okie
longish
dokie.
session of actual
Now,
play.
I just want to bring it up here
I
real
mean, we can
quick.
go. We could go 45 minutes or an hour. I mean,
Yeah,
I just know what you guys want for time. So if we're doing an hour, then we should wrap up. If you guys want to stay over, then we could. I'm free to stay over if you want to. I'm just wondering.
yeah.
I'm
I
asking
can do a
about
little bit
your
extra,
time.
but there's no rest for the wicked, and I have never been anything but in my life.
I believe it. So I brought up the map here on the stream. Anybody is watching, of course, can kind of see here the size of the farms, the size of the forest relative to the size of the city. To be perfectly honest, there's about a third the size of the city in farmland outside the walls, and on top of that, there's
Maybe a little
about
more.
a third to a quarter of the size of the city in just harvestable, scavengeable forest. So, thinking about Crown's Rock sustaining itself and on its own resources, it's definitely believable that they would be able to get by fairly well on their own. Obviously, they're gonna have to import a lot of stuff when stuff is more abundant, but they can at least produce enough to hold out on their own. And
For limited amounts of time, maybe. I mean, typically you require more farmable land than you have in terms of population to
Right.
support it. So, having only about a third of a city size is actually undersized. But then again, we also don't have an exact dig on their population
Yeah.
or on their ingress. And of course, I kind of tend to forget that they have these really long
seasons. Yeah.
seasons, so they actually have a much better growing season
Yeah.
probably than what I would traditionally think of.
There's
Yeah, I would imagine that overall the big challenge is storage.
Yeah.
You've got to have a crap ton of storage for a long season like that, a long growing season, and then being able to actually survive a really long winter.
Yeah, I guess the flip side of that is those really long winters.
But it's a trading hub. Even in the early and up until the mid parts of the winter, I'm sure there's still ships and trade going on and going through. I would imagine once it just gets to the part where being out on the water is just a losing bet of a prospect most of the time. That's when you're not really going to see nearly as much of the trade going on, and they're going to switch over to conservation and going off their stored resources. And there's definitely, it's one of those things where whatever the general resources are, somewhere in the estates up top and Calder House and all these other places, there's places where they've got their own private storage and their own private stuff, and everybody's probably got a little stuff stashed here and there. The innkeeper had his own brew that he had made a while back that he's still just trying to nurse off of very, very, very slowly. It's his own private brew that he's now finally put on the shelves for other people to drink because it's getting down to the bottoms here. I imagine there's a lot. The over in Crown Hill, the abbey that houses the Alder Crown, I would imagine they probably store really hard and probably have their own storage and stuff. Potentially, they even have underground infrastructure built up for storage, specifically because they know, it's going to get bad for a while. We've been here for long enough to know that this is going to be a good way. Nobody messes with the crown. Nobody messes with the stuff near the crown. We keep it heavily protected, so we can just double up on the efforts and use the same security around the crown to protect our major last ditch reserves.
So what is our normal process from getting grain from the docks? Do we go directly to the docks and talk to a merchant there? Are we using a provisioner that will send people to pick up the grain, and then they stock the grain, and we go visit them when we want more grain. And then the same thing, we're in the middle of the week, so if we were going to get meat, or do we have a storage of meat for the whole week? Do we and how do we get that? Do we go to the same provisioner that we get our grain to get our meat for the week, or do we go to a specific store or person or whatever?
I think I assumed that we had a standing order at the Caravan House, which is around the corner.
Yeah, and there's
from us.
Yeah.
And is that for everything, meat and grain?
Everything he needs so that he can actually just bake.
And it's one of those things where because of his location, this is one of the things that's a major benefit to anybody that needs any sort of resource that would come from a farm. If you're on the west side of the city, you're in great shape because people have to come through Westgate, Southgate, or Northgate. They will be passing by your neighborhood anyway, so there's a higher chance you'll be able to set something up where you get a reduced cost on getting the thing shipped to you, instead of if you're over in Calder House, you're paying full price, or you've probably got your own shipping infrastructure that you're sending people over to get whatever resources and materials that you've got on order. But anywhere that's not on the west side, over on the east where the farms aren't really flowing to the market from, I would imagine it's going to be a lot harder to get this stuff. So where he's at right now, whoever's coming through from Southgate Farms to the market is passing, more or less by his area. It's just a quick stop to go by his neck of the woods and drop off any goods and supplies. So that seems like it'd be the arrangement. If it isn't coming from the market, it's coming straight from Southgate Farms on the caravan that's then making its way to the market afterward to drop off goods.
So it seems to me like, this is just I'm just throwing out suggestion really.
Mm-hmm.
But we should, because we're headed towards the docks, I believe, check out the docks and see what the situation is. And then whatever we find out there, we should also then check on the caravan at the Caravan House to see what we need to do, how that's going to affect our grain situation and our provisioning situation.
Yeah, because there's the kind of quarantine outside in that you can't come inside the walls from outside without certain special permission. And being deputized, you actually do have that, but
we just need to figure out what that's going to be.
The flow of resources is going to be a little tied up. You'll find when you get there.
Yeah, and so we've decided we normally don't deal with the suites. Like, I'm wondering, since there's also kind of forested areas down there, we're not gonna check on, or maybe we get that through the Caravan House too. Like honey supply, is there a person that we go to? I would think that would be where molasses is. I guess that's not honey, but molasses might be down that way. Is that something we want to check on while we're down there, or we'll just go to the docks and then head back to the Caravan House?
And that's another thing I'm wondering.
I don't think it's come up yet that he has orders at the Caravan House. That hasn't come up in play, and that there's a shortage. So
no, we don't know. But that's what I'm saying. We need to that's something we need to go figure out. We need to visit the Caravan House after we find out what's going on at the docks. But I'm just wondering, while we're down near the docks, is there also, if we are thinking about molasses, are there trees that provide that? So that might be where the people who normally are gathering molasses are. Would we check with them while we're there, or will we just go back to the Caravan House and check on all provisions? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well,
what do you two think?
It's up to y'all.
Not interested in molasses?
No, I think actually I was just typing. I think he would be interested in anything that would produce spice and sweet. I would think that sweet would be pretty rare. So you'd have honey as a source, molasses as a source, syrup as a source. if there's any
Right,
kind of sap tree that
I could,
produces sweet.
I could see him going for molasses simply because some really great loaves come from it,
Yeah.
and it would also help him set himself apart from some of the
Okay,
other.
so maybe while we're down there, we might check on whoever deals with that. We might have a special, even if we get that from the caravan house, we might have a connection with somebody there we want to check
I would think a
on and make
barrel of
sure.
molasses, though, or a small a half barrel
Oh,
pony
like a not
keg
even.
kind of thing would last him a good long time, though.
Maybe we want to pick up a little carafe while we're down there, or check to see what that situation. Okay, so I think maybe there's somebody down there that we might want to check on before we head back to the caravan house. Okay.
One other thing. I don't think Harold really minds too much what kind of flour he's working with, if available. Potato flour he'd mess with, rice flour he'd mess with, almond flour he'd mess with. So
Sure.
if it gets to the
Which
point
are
where if it gets to the point where one of them is not available, the grains are not available, he would definitely switch it up to something else, I would think. If there's almond trees, for example, or then the other one I was asking if was around there, if there's maple trees or some other sort of syrup tree, I would imagine
Yeah,
there
Verity
are...
said he would check that.
Cool.
I think he's capable of it. I don't know how willing he would really be to throw down and just go ahead and I mean, you can make the argument for adaptation, yes, but those are all low gluten flours. I mean, I hate to be
he might have to
way
make
about it.
flatbread if it comes down to it, but he can do it.
Well, I'm saying yeah, he could, but why? I think he would focus in all trades. You focused on taking the best ingredient you can and making the best product with it. Could he do lower quality stuff or alternate to something else? He has the knowledge and the skill. Yes, I could see him doing it to survive.
Yeah.
But I still fundamentally think that his character is the type who would still focus on trying to get. If there was, I guess maybe while he maybe isn't the snobbiest of bakers or the most, and certainly probably isn't like the, top dog of Crown's Rock, I still think that given the choice, if he's sitting there, it's like, yes, I could get that bag of strong bread, high protein bread flour for, whatever the cost is, because it's gone up because there's less of it, or I could get, two bags of the same of like a rice flour or what have you for less. I think I still see him, and it's just me, but I still picture him doing the bread flour. I don't think he would compromise that quickly on it until it became actually like truly a financial, alien.
If there's just no more grain flour to be had, then
Yeah, well then, absolutely,
he'll do it.
He would live. Yeah.
What this has me thinking of is that, one, it's possible, and that would be something we would want to know more from a lore perspective. It's possible that towards the end of Old Winter, when supplies tend to be low, there's different types of season. That's a seasonal thing that, everybody kind of is wanting at that point because
That actually
what
makes
the
a lot of
festival
sense.
is or something. So that's a possibility. But even so, if we go to the caravan house, one of the perception rules we might want to make is to see what types of flour are going low, because even if we don't use that other flour, that means we know people who do use that flour for their baking. We're not doing that baking, but we know who is doing that baking, and then we might want to let them know, hey, I was just at the caravan house and I noticed that they're really low on supplies and are probably going to be low for a period of time. So that's the kind of thing, again, since we're pretty good at perception, as we're going through, we should be thinking of those things. Harold might be noticing, paying attention to that kind of stuff, even if it's not going to, we're not going to do anything with that directly. So that's all good stuff. Even if we're not going to use the flour directly, we might want to pay it. Harold might be paying attention to that.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things, kind of getting back to the idea of what he wants out of all of this, when it comes to the connection with the guard and having been deputized, does it seem like he wants to potentially expand into, you know, larger infrastructure and start being like head baker for the guard to try to help prevent this sort of thing from happening again, or just to raise his status in Crown's Rock? Or would he rather stick with the place that he's got and simply, you know, be recognized for the efforts for what he's doing right now, and that he heeded the call of being deputized, and, you know, whatever he did to help, he did, because this event isn't going to wipe Crown's Rock off the map.
Right.
My thinking on this, given what, you know, the way I heard it, and you got to kind of put that in perspective, was that it was an involuntary being deputized. He didn't necessarily want to do it.
That's correct.
But he doesn't have any choice. So my opinion is that Harold wants to get this over with so he can go back to his life. ASAP.
Okay.
And my perspective, and I don't think it's counter to that necessarily, is that, you know, people came up and said, hey, we think we need your help. We think you're a good person to help with this. And he's like, okay, if I can help, I'm willing to help.
Yeah, that's
And
kind of
let's
where I
see,
see it
you
too.
know,
I think he probably wasn't completely opposed to it, but I do agree. I mean, he's still, if I can help, I'll help, because it can get me back to,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
It's not so much I want to be a deputy and I'm, you know, looking for some way to better my life. It's just happens to be I have some skills that are also they think is also going to be helpful in this situation. So.
Right, and it kind of colludes with what I'm doing anyways, and it affects what I'm doing anyways, so why not go help?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then I can go back and do my thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, he doesn't have any choice. He's deputized. So,
Yeah, I mean, either way, but it's...
Yep.
I kind of picture it as a not entirely reluctant. It's like he doesn't sit here grumbling and resenting it every step of the way.
No.
Yeah.
He's let go of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it seems like, being the person that he isn't really happy with the fact that there's some problem going on right now, and that he'd be, you know, at least genuinely concerned about what it is, and maybe interested enough to at least want to know what it is, which of course coincides with his now being deputized and, you know, learning about it, so he has to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's negatively impacting business and the town in general. So
it's negatively impacting business that people who would regularly come by won't necessarily be able to get their bread. But again, he's being compensated for it. So, you know, on paper he isn't losing. But you're right. His customers, like, I'm sure he would probably feel really bad about that. It's like, oh, you know, I know you come by every day, and unfortunately, you know, wasn't able to help you out, so I stayed up extra late, and I, you know, made 7 of them, and, you know, just take them all right now.
Could be interesting as he starts getting a little sleep deprived here going into this.
Yeah, I mean, this is given the situation. He's probably up at 3 a.m. and goes to bed about 8. If we're looking at a 24-hour day, because bakers historically do get up early. They have a lot of prep, and then they've got to have stuff ready.
Yep.
Then, you know, it's got to be available so that when people can pick it up on their way to work or whatever. So, I mean, this guy goes to bed early.
Okay. We should think about that too. I had not been thinking about that. So I had been thinking that we might even be at the docks at night, but that's a good...
it depends on whether or not is my business open tomorrow.
No. But I like what you added, because that means that's going to be an exception. That's not going to be like, you know, I'm normally up around this time anyway. So, I mean, if he's going to be there at night, he's making an extra effort to do that. So,
and he might be asleep on his feet.
That's...
I mean, we might have to roll for some kind of a debuff on awareness.
But so again, so that's something I would think we would not plan to do this particular day. If we were going to be there, if we decide we want to be at the docks at night, we'll probably plan that for the next night or a couple of nights ahead. So
at the same
that's
time,
all stuff that
I would imagine, being able to see with natural light instead of having to look around if, with torches, being able to potentially see things further away if it's a little misty or anything. That's the sort of thing, there's merit to going while it's a little brighter rather than going at night when.
Oh yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
just saying. Well, I mean, that's the plan is to go now. I'm just saying, but if there's a reason we need to be there at night,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha.
because I think we
It
heard
seemed.
some people went missing at night or something like that. So
It sounds like then he would probably like wake up and then get his stuff together and immediately head over at like 3 or 4 a.m. That's the time when most
Right.
people haven't woken up. The people that have been out late drinking are
Yeah.
all passed out, etc. It's the I know in some religions it's about the time that you're supposed to pray to whomever because it'll have the clearest signal relative to your area or something because everyone's all out or whatever.
right, and
I imagine that's the sort of hour he knows he gets up. There's nobody out on the streets. There's nobody
right,
out doing anything. All the animals are even asleep everywhere. He can just get up and do his thing.
right, and that's perfect. So instead of staying up late to go investigate at night, he's gonna go to bed early and then get up early.
Yeah.
During other people's night. That's
Yep.
I mean that's perfect.
That's his normal
the-
wake up time anyway, so
right.
that
That's
works.
right. That's the kind of stuff we want to have going. So we know how to really play this character according to that. That's all good stuff.
Yeah. Let's see, and Snipe was saying that originally we were sort of targeting the sort of forest you'd find in the hills of Arkansas, so there might be some trees with useful sap, but also juniper and a few other evergreens that bees might feed on too. So
Yeah.
definitely bees. There's sap, whether it's the kind you want to cook with or the kind that you use for burning or sealing things
Rubber.
or whatever. Yeah, that's. Well, rubber comes from latex actually. It's the white milky stuff that's coming out. But anyway, yeah, no, so there is definitely stuff to be had in the forest. It's probably just not the funnest time to go out. Now, I guess I don't really know about weather wise. Like, is there a lot of precipitation in Crowns Rock in old winter? Is there snowfall? Is there rain? Is it just this salty haze that's bitter cold and breezy? Like, that's something I've kind of been wondering about a little bit here too, because I know it's obviously going to be the absolute coldest that it's ever going to be, but is there snow everywhere? Is it icy? Are there ice slicks because it rains and it kind of sets on the ground or whatever? What's the weather like is something that I'm kind of wondering about, because that's also something I think might come into consideration with Harold, because yeah, you get up at 3 or 4 a.m. Sure, nobody's around, but it's also the coldest point of the night. It's before the sun comes back and starts warming things up again. It can't get any colder. So that was oh yeah. What's this phone doing in here? Sorry about that. Latex compound and peppers, yeah, probably. A lot of things have it. It's just that rubber trees it just comes out of in large quantities. So it sounds like there's a lot of things just business related that Harold would want to address. Seeing what's going on with different flower supplies, kind of figuring out what's going, and just other supplies, things that he'd be working with, knowing that once this investigation's over, he'll still be able to have access to his things, or
I
all that sort of stuff.
just think that's the perspective that he kind of looks at the world. That's the lens he looks at the world through. So like he's also focused on the mystery of the plague, but he's kind of viewing that all through the lens of baking and his perceptions through baking. And that's kind of again why they picked him, because he's very perceptive, but also he's got that cast iron stomach that He's probably not going to get sick.
Yeah, and which brings us all the way back around to that kind of point that we missed with the start of this, which is it is the perspective of a baker. Why the hell wasn't he baking? Why the hell wasn't he in the kitchen? And that wasn't we stopped there as that information source, and it was like, okay, move on.
Right.
It should have been, I should be testing your ingredients. I should be baking something, see what happens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go with what you know. I should be eating what the terrible gruel the guards are eating right now, or something like that. So yeah, and
I often find myself, because I don't normally get sick, but sometimes it's not even really queasy necessarily, but there are times when I'm going throughout the day and I'm like, I think I should have some bread today because, my stomach feels a little funny and the bread's going to make me feel better. So, I have bread. I can imagine that, people having a plague or something, you might have that same, reaction.
And bread is life. I mean, again, and it's one of those remarkable things that it's always kind of easy on the stomach.
Yeah.
A basic straight bread is kind of easy on the stomach. They might have it with a bit of broth or something like that, but it would.
Yep.
It'd be something you knew you could go to when you couldn't have more. That was me last week.
There you go. Yep. So, cool. And this gives me more ideas. So now I have very good ideas of stuff that I would like for Harold to do on our way to visit the docks.
Which means, Nero, you need to start fleshing out things on your end.
Yeah.
You've just added a whole thing that you're going to be like, crap, I have to start thinking about all the guys that live along this.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, Snipe just said, in terms of weather, he said it was a lot like Ireland or Northern England during the winter, with the worst of high winter being pretty much always freezing and very stormy.
Okay.
I said that sounds like a lot of spray freezing on contact. And he said exactly,
that
miserable.
sucks.
Yeah.
That's why I would have stayed warm in my manse,
Mm-hmm.
bundled up by a fire.
Well, today seemed to have been a good day, and maybe for our tomorrow, we need to think about making sure.
Yeah.
We need to look out and see what the weather's like, and see if we need, maybe that's when we're gonna visit the caravan house because we don't want to go too far from home. I don't know. We'll see.
I finally take some time to look at the sky. It turns out there was a swarm of locusts there the entire time. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
In old winter, that'd be a good
Cicadas.
trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should be interesting for you folks to kind of figure out what's really going on here. And
And what's that big puddle of goo underneath that window? Ooh.
it's ink, perhaps. Does it smell really bad?
Yeah, roll for madness.
Indeed. Cool. So, I guess another question I would have about Harold before we wrap up. It was what was it? Let's see, because we've talked about that he would go eat or drink somewhere outside of where he lives. Does that? It was oh yeah. This is not a question. Figure out what his family is between now and the next session. I'm not going to make that up for you.
Okay. Yep, we can do that.
Family, answer the rest of the questions. We'll have it more fleshed out next time. And and one thing that I am gonna kind of give as a reveal. I'm not sure if I'll actually go into the details or if it'll come out during one of the sessions. But yeah, Jinda is kind of dense, but no, she actually does know why she had gotten conscripted. She doesn't like to talk about it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You may figure that out. You might not. We'll see.
Oh, I could never naturally trust someone that flighty. Sadly. I just don't believe people like that actually exist.
Fair enough.
So what's up with Trump?
Like I said, I don't believe people like that exist. There's more going on there. I don't necessarily mean it's smarter. I just mean there's more going on.
Okay.
All right.
Besides, to be fair, I also said I said I don't believe people that flighty exist. I didn't say I don't believe people that stupid exist. Okay, sorry, that's personal opinion.
Fair enough.
Yep. Okay.
Retract that before the internet feasts upon me.
It's fine.
Next thing I know, half of 4chan is up on my face.
Exactly.
They wouldn't go up that far.
I don't know. You saw the depths they went through for Shia LaBeouf.
I didn't actually.
Oh, well.
I try not to pay attention to that crap. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but they made a lot of news on it. So, anyways, all right.
I think it's about time for us
I
to
hope
wrap
everybody
up.
had fun.
Yeah, faux show. And definitely looking for it. We will be back in 2 weeks. In 1 week, the time when this normally goes, it'll instead be over on the DOP crew, where the playtest will be continuing, and that should be pretty entertaining, seeing what's going on now that the team's gotten to somewhere that a bunch of their plot lines are going to be going on. There should be all sorts of shenanigans, and he will not divide
Shenanigans
us.
is a great word.
You know, it's funny you say that, Snipe, because I have to imagine the party is going to get divided.
So it should be interesting because now I'll actually be, because the last game I was sick, missed most of that. The previous game I had bad scheduling, so I was missing chunks of being of interaction. So this time I'll actually be able to bring my A game again and stop Verdi from party wiping.
Nice.
Or at the very least, I'll hopefully ensure my character survival. It sounds sketchy at this point.
It's all sketchy.
It is.
Okay.
Cool. All right. That, and of course the Fireside on Tuesday, where I will see you folks next. Till then, see y'all later. Have a good one.
All right.